everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome to my channel. My name is Meg, and today I have a first impression / review for you guys on the new Maybelline Dream Velvet Foundation. And yeah, I decided to pick this up because it's supposed to be a hydrating foundation, which is something that I need because I have really dry skin. And Maybelline foundations and I have a very long love-hate relationship. About 5 or 6 years ago, I consistently used their, oh my gosh, what was it? Their Dream Mousse foundation. I love that stuff. And I don't know, over the past years I've tried a couple here and there, and they just did not work right on my skin, and they just oxidized, and I just absolutely have hated every single Maybelline foundation that I've tried in the past several years. So I'm really hoping to like this one. Like, I really want to like this one. Okay, so let's get into it. According to their website, this is their first hydrating matte foundation for 100% Velvet Smooth Perfection. It is a gel whipped formula, and it is ideal for normal to combination skin, and it will provide medium coverage. And it just says that this gel whipped foundation will leave your complexion perfected and smooth with a velvety soft matte finish while the skin stays hydrated for 12 hours. So that right there is telling me that this foundation is supposed to last for 12 hours. And then it just says for the best results to use their little blender thing that comes with the foundation. So I'm going to go ahead and get into this review, and let's get started. It started with this first impression. I've already moisturized my skin and I primed it because that's what I normally do. And I use the men's Nivea Aftershave Balm as a primer. Basically, if you haven't seen my other videos, I moisturize and prime my skin because I want to wear this foundation how I would normally wear a foundation. The only thing that I wouldn't do is set it with a setting spray because I do want to see how it sits on my skin, because not every day I wear a setting spray. So other than that, I'm still going to moisturize my skin because my skin is like extra dry, and any foundation is going to look like garbage on top of it. And I'm still going to prime it because that's what I do no matter what when I wear a foundation. And for me, that's the best way to tell how this is going to work on my skin and react. If I were to do a first impression with nothing on my face and have the foundation be absolutely terrible and not work for me, like, I feel like that's not really a fair review for the foundation, simply because it's not how I would personally wear the foundation. So I hope that makes sense. I got 2 shades because I was unsure. It's kind of tricky when you're looking to buy stuff. By the way, I could not find this in any damn drugstore that I went to. So I ordered this offline. So it's even more difficult to try to buy things when looking online. So I got the 2 palest shades. One definitely looks like it's more yellow based, which is this number 5 in warm porcelain, which makes sense that it's like a warm. And then the other shade is definitely more pink toned, and this is number 10, Porcelain Ivory. So I'm going to go ahead and sort of like kind of bloop both of them out to see which is going to match my skin the best. So number 10, the Warm Ivory, just looks like it's going to be like a teensy bit too dark and like maybe too pink, but I have a pink undertone, so maybe that will work out. But for today, I'm going to test out number 5, Warm Porcelain, to see how this works. I'm just going to put some on the back of my hand, and it definitely looks very like airy and mousse-like. It definitely reminds me of the Dream Mousse from back in the day. That was actually the last foundation by Maybelline that I was like obsessed with and loved, and it worked really great for me. So now I'm kind of having some high hopes for this Maybelline foundation. So I'm just going to go ahead, and then if you couldn't tell earlier, I broke out. I actually used a face mask the other day that was supposed to get red breakouts because I had a zit right here that was just going crazy, and I was just like, oh, maybe I'll actually have decent skin in a video for once. And I used a face mask and it completely broke out my chin area. So I mean, it's sucky for me, but good for this video so we can see how well it's going to cover everything. So I do feel like this is a pretty good match. Again, I do feel like it's just a little bit too dark, and I think it's because it's a little too yellow based, but I feel that the pink base foundation would be too dark for me, so. I do feel like this is giving me a pretty decent coverage with the little bit that I'm putting on, so I'm interested to see if this is going to be buildable. Okay, so this is with one layer of foundation on. I'm going to try to get a little bit closer. Hopefully it focuses in. It does give a really nice coverage. The one thing that I noticed is that I barely put any in my nose and it instantly covered up all my freckles, which is kind of crazy. So this is a pretty full coverage foundation, especially for being from the drugstore. I feel like that's hard to find. You can still see a little bit of my zits. A lot of like the pinkness and redness has been rubbed out, but I'm going to, I have like a huge thing of like, I wonder if that's, I like put toothpaste on my face last night, but like I washed it, so I'm wondering if that just didn't come off. I will say that it's difficult to spread around, so you may need more than what you think, because like that area pretty much blended out nicely here, but this area didn't really get a lot of foundation, so you may have to use a little more than what you think if you're using a sponge. I am going to go ahead and try to put a second coat on in some areas to see how buildable this is. This is how much I'm using for the second part of my face. So I haven't used, I feel like, a ton of foundation, but I just want to make sure that I get even coverage all over my face. I have finished just adding a little bit more to certain areas. And I do think that this is pretty good coverage. It does say that it's a medium coverage foundation. I wouldn't say like it's borderline medium full coverage, just because you can still see a little bit of pinkness and redness around my acne spots. But other than that, I feel like my skin looks pretty flawless. However, I will say adding a second layer with this beauty blender, it was a little bit more difficult to blend out for some reason. Like the foundation wasn't really wanting to move around. So I'm wondering if it's almost too thick for a wet beauty blender. So I'm not sure if it would spread out better if this was dry. And then I'm also curious to see how it would work with a foundation brush. So anyways, I do feel like my skin looks pretty flawless right now. I'm gonna go ahead and put the rest of my makeup on and check back in. I'm just like not used to wearing something that is such a full coverage. Like, not that this is full coverage, it's more like medium to full, but I'm not used to wearing something that's just like such a nice coverage. Like, it's just so weird. I do feel like the colors showed up nicely on my face. Like my blush, I feel like it's really standing out nicely. My highlight looks nice. My bronzer is like a little bit on the lighter side, but I can still see it. The only thing, one thing I forgot to mention earlier was that I did also exfoliate my face this morning. So I feel like that's a very important step, especially if you have dry skin, because I just exfoliated my face in the sink, so I just focused on the center of my face. So I just really didn't have it go like above this area. And I can see like more like closer to my hairline, like where I do have some drier patches. I can really see it kind of like sticking to the dry patches, especially with the bronzer on over it, like around my hairline. It is making it a little bit more noticeable. But again, it's only really noticeable to me because it's in such small areas and I'm like this close with the mirror staring at it. If I didn't exfoliate my face this morning, I feel like it would be a different story, like especially in the center of my forehead. So that's something to keep in mind, is that exfoliating your face is always a good idea. I try to do it every couple of days, especially because my skin is so dry. And with that being said, I don't really see this clinging to anything, which is like so nice. It does, because it is a little bit fuller of a coverage, I can see it looking like a little bit caked up, like in the corner of my mouth and like when I wrinkle my forehead. However, I think a good fix for that would be spraying with a setting spray. Like, I can just see this looking so nice with a setting spray. However, I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to resist. I just want to so bad because I just feel like it's going to make this foundation look so beautiful on the skin with it. Other than that, I just feel like it's sitting really nice. You probably can tell a difference between my face and my neck, and I know that's like a no-no and it looks bad, but I just really don't care. If I was actually going out and doing stuff, then I would blend it down to my neck, but I'm just going to the movies and hanging out in my apartment today, so I just really don't care. Right now it is 12:07 p.m. and I will check back in a couple of hours to show you guys how this is worn throughout the day. Okay, time for a midday check-in. It is now 3:32 in the afternoon. So I've had this foundation on for about 3.5 hours, and I definitely feel the foundation on my face because it is really thick. It is like a gel moussey kind of formulation, so you can feel the foundation sort of sitting on your face, and I always tend to feel foundation the most like right here on my forehead. So the foundation, I feel like it's starting to bunch up around my nose, and I feel like I have this issue with just about every foundation that I use. It just always tends to cake up right around my nostrils. Other than that, I feel like it looks pretty good. It still looks like it's giving the same amount of coverage. It does feel slightly tacky, but I kind of expected that, especially because of the consistency of the foundation and because it's supposed to be hydrating. So if you wanted to, you can set this with a powder, but I almost feel like I'm going to start getting oily right up in here soon, like shiny. Yeah, so far I feel like it's still sitting on the skin nicely. It doesn't seem like it has oxidized a whole lot, which is a good thing because I always seem to have that problem with Maybelline foundations. So yeah, so far so good. I'll check back in at the end of the night. Alright, so it is the end of the night and I am ready to wash my face off. So it is 8:42 p.m. So I've had this foundation on for about 8.5 hours, and I feel like that's a pretty good run for a foundation. I feel like that's how long most people would wear it, and I'm pretty impressed with how this wore throughout the day. I can't really see that much of my bronzer and blush and stuff that I put on. I don't really see that much of my highlight anymore. I kind of feel like the powder makeup just sort of disappeared into the foundation by the end of the day, but that's kind of to be expected. A lot of it did rub off the tip of my nose, but I'm always like itching and rubbing my nose. And then another thing that I noticed is that throughout the day it started to gunk up around my nostrils, which happens with pretty much every foundation that I try. So that's pretty normal. The only thing is that there's just like a little bit of redness around my nose area. So I think that's just from me rubbing and stuff like that throughout the day. I did blow my nose and stuff like that, so I feel like that's why it rubbed away. But I also feel like the coverage is still pretty good. Like I feel like the redness and stuff from like the zits that I have on my face stayed pretty covered throughout the day. I feel like my foundation looks a little bit more on the rough side now too, because I also just took a bath. So I just feel like I was like very warm and then like just hot from being in the hot water. But overall, I really feel like this foundation did a good job of staying on my skin all day. It just does feel like a little bit heavier like on my forehead, but then again, it is like a medium to full coverage. The price of this is around $11, and I feel like it's worth the price. Like I feel like the $11 is totally worth the foundation. It's not spectacular, but it's also not terrible. And this is like the first Maybelline foundation in years that I haven't absolutely hated. And I actually like this a lot. I don't think I'll be using it for my day-to-day foundation just because it is a little bit more full coverage, but if I am going out to dinner or, you know, doing whatever, I think it's a really great option, and I think it's gonna stay on your skin and stay in place. It didn't really move around or anything like that. I do look a little bit shiny right here on my forehead, so if anything, you may have to like set with a powder or use a setting spray, and I really feel like that will solve the issue of looking shiny. So I hope you guys found this review helpful, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!